Hi guys, so hopefully by now you've seen our videos on basic filming and editing techniques. If you haven't, you can view these from our links in the description below. Now today we're going to be going into more detail about features you can find on more professional cameras and phone applications, as well as a few more tips to get the best out of your mobile devices. So let's jump straight into it. Now audiences can be very forgiving if the video isn't the best quality.
Having bad audio is less effective and can put someone off watching content altogether.
Now if you're using the built-in microphone on your camera, make sure you get as close to your subject as possible, preferably in a quiet environment. So when shooting outside, try to shield your camera from the wind and take note of where the microphone is so your fingers are not covering it while filming. External microphones are recommended for better audio quality, with different types being used in different shooting environments. Now the clip or lapel mic is a small omnidirectional mic that can be attached to your subject. It's good for a single person on camera, small and discreet, but it can pick up a lot of background noise. The shotgun or boom mic. Now this is a directional microphone that can be mounted on your camera, allowing you to pick up sound wherever you're facing. It's useful for filming multiple people, but it is sensitive to handling. Handheld or reporter mic. Now this microphone allows you to retain control over who's talking, although it takes practice to get the operation of this right. It's good for a two-person interview and to help cut out background noise. Use headphones where possible to monitor your sound. If you have a levels meter, keep an eye on this. Any audio that hits the red is known as peaking and is too high. So make sure you turn down the volume or move your mic further from the source to control this. Exposure relates to how much light is exposed to the camera's sensor, resulting in how bright your image is. And this can be controlled on the camera in 3 different ways. The aperture is measured in f-stops and relates to how wide the iris on your lens is open in order to let light through. A low f-stop like f4 means the iris is wide open, letting in more light and brightening the image. A high f-stop like f16 means the iris is small, reducing the amount of light and darkening the image. The aperture has a second use in that the wider the iris is, the shallower the depth of field becomes. Now depth of field affects your focus, and the shallower the depth of field, the more the subjects in the background and foreground of your focus point become out of focus. Shutter controls the amount of time the sensor on your camera is exposed to light. So this is measured in seconds. So 1 is a reference to the shutter being open for 1 second. 1/50th is equivalent to a 50th of a second. Shutter also has a second use in that it controls the blur in a scene. Now a slow shutter speed means that it's exposed to movement for longer and produces a blur. Now this is often used to create the look of speed. A quick shutter speed means it only catches a glimpse of the image and makes objects appear sharper in movement. ISO or gain is a digital adjustment the camera does to the image to make it look brighter. It can be useful if you have your aperture and your shutter set to the looks you want. Now the ISO is the last thing you can then apply if your image is still a little bit dark. Be careful though, as the higher the ISO, the more digital noise will be applied to your image, which can make it look very grainy. The best way to manually focus your camera is to zoom in on your subject, focus and then zoom back out. Now on a phone you can set your focus points by holding on a particular part of the screen. Focus modes help tell your camera what to focus on when autofocus is enabled. Center focus. The camera will focus on the center part of the frame. Multi-focus. This automatically selects between a number of autofocus points and prioritizes subjects closest to the center of the frame. Some cameras have an exposure meter to help you manually adjust for correct exposure. Now the correct exposure is indicated when the line is positioned in the middle of the scales. If it's below, the image is underexposed, and if it's above, it's overexposed. On phones, this can be set by pressing on what you want the camera to correctly expose for. Metering modes help tell the camera what to focus on when auto exposure is enabled. Now matrix or evaluative measures the light across the whole image, but takes the focus points as priority to evaluate for best exposure. Now center weighted or average measures the light across the middle of the image, but takes the center of the image as priority to evaluate for best exposure, ignoring the focus points. Spot metering only evaluates the light over a small part of the center of the image, ignoring everything else. Temperature of light is measured from red to blue along a scale in kelvins. And this normally ranges between 2000 kelvins to 10,000 kelvins. Our eyes naturally adjust to the different types of light to make whites look white, but cameras aren't so good at doing this. And so we can manually set this on camera using a reference like a piece of paper to make sure the balance is correct. Shooting a video at a high frame rate allows you to collect more images in a scene. Now this produces smoother motion, but it can also be used to create slow motion clips. If you consider 25 FPS your default look, then by shooting at 50 FPS, this allows you to then slow that clip down by half the speed. So the higher the frame rate, the more it can be slowed down by. If you're shooting a scene where very little changes over time, such as a landscape, you can shoot at a low frame rate to reduce the collection of the useless images in a scene. This then gives you the ability to speed those images up into a time lapse. Here's a couple of additional things to note when putting these shooting techniques into practice. Airplane mode. So turning your phone into airplane mode prevents any interruptions during filming over long periods of time. Keep a good eye level to your subject. Shooting from a high angle can make your subjects appear small and inferior. Now the opposite can be said for shooting from a low angle, making your subjects appear large and dominant. Try to keep a clean background as to not have anything around your subject too distracting. Now getting those beautiful shallow focus shots and capturing great action in slow motion doesn't have to be left down to the professionals. You can do it all from the power of your small camera. Just don't forget to expose your image correctly beforehand using your aperture, your shutter and your ISO. As always, stay tuned for more from us at the Ascential video team. Thanks for watching.